mother-in-law said I'd ruin her son's life, so I banned her from our wedding.
I'm gonna ruin his life.
My husband, 36 male, and I, 33 female, have known each other since we were teens. But our lives went separate ways until about 3 years ago, when I met my husband again. His mother, my mother-in-law, was living with him. I didn't see an issue with this, as it's not like he was living with her, and I could clearly tell he wasn't a mama's boy. In fact, he disagreed with his mother quite often, but was always good about holding his tongue and keeping the peace. By the way, this comes from Safe University 8323, and if you want to submit your own stories, go to the r/okstorytime subreddit. I'm Sophia.
I'm Dakota.
I'm Carly.
We are here to give good advice goofily, but we don't have all the answers. We only know what we do, so let us know what you would do in the comments. About 3 months into us seeing each other, my husband and his mother got into an argument. She insisted he build a privacy fence in his front yard because the local troublemakers across the street made her uncomfortable. He refused, as not only is it not permitted where we live to do so, but because it was tacky and ridiculous. This caused a huge fight in which he told her she had to go, and she promptly moved her things out. Oddly enough, though, they were fine the next day, and he helped her move her belongings back in. Fast forward about 6 months later. It's Easter 2024. She had us come over to help move things. She moved again to her second place since my husband's house. While we were there, she asked to give my stepdaughter, 5 years old at the time, her Easter basket she had made her. She made all of her grandchildren one that year. I myself have 3 children of my own, 13 male, 12 female, and 8 male. All 4 children were with us while we were helping her move. My husband asked her if she had made anything for my children, to which she responded no. She didn't think about them. I told her it was fine. They were really too old for Easter baskets anyway. She apologized and insisted my kids pick out an Easter basket and she'd just make more for the other grandchildren. So my kids picked a basket and we went about our night. Remember this for later. Since my mother-in-law couldn't afford much, she was moving into small apartments, and this last place was a room in a mansion some guy owns and rents the rooms out. She had asked us if she could store some things at our house that she just didn't want to get rid of, but didn't have the space for. My husband had just moved into my home not long before this. I owned a house in the country on 5 acres. My children and I were already trying to adjust to having him and my stepdaughter in our space, along with their belongings. But I agreed to let her store her things until she was able to find other storage options. I gave her 6 months. At this time, my husband and I had just gotten engaged, and my storage in my garage was being prepared to be used for my wedding prep and decor. Towards the 6-month mark, I had started asking my husband to speak with his mother about her things, as I was running out of space to store wedding things. He agreed and did message her periodically about it. She'd always say she'd come over and wouldn't. Or my favorite, she's scared of my dog. I told her I'd keep him locked in his kennel the entire time. So finally, I reached out to my mother-in-law and asked if she'd like me to help her get the items posted on Facebook Marketplace and sell them since she clearly had gone this long without the items. She agreed, and I told her she was welcome to come out and help me price items and go through everything. She always had an excuse for not coming out. One day, I messaged her and told her I'd price the items and get them placed online for her. She agreed. I started going through items, and honestly, most of it was items that required a specific buyer for big bucks. Crystalware, decorative plates, decor, etc. The furniture was pretty much junk, except for one decent chest of drawers and a decorative dessert cart. I began to list the items to sell. Things began to sell, but then we got a call from my mother-in-law. She was not happy with the pricing. She didn't have a Facebook, but my husband's youngest sister was telling their mother what I was listing things for. Well, yes, I was pricing things low. It was not unreasonable for the circumstances. I had given her 6 months, and it had been 8 months at this point. I gave her the option to help me price things, and I wanted the stuff out of my storage. I told her things were already sold that she wanted the prices changed on, and if she wanted those higher price tags, she should have come gotten her stuff or helped me. I explained to her that the majority of what she had required the right buyer to get the money she was asking for. I was not there to be her personal eBay, and I didn't have time and needed the space for our wedding. We found out a few days later that the place she lives has a storage shed in the backyard for each room and resident in the mansion. So she had somewhere this whole time for her stuff. Where does she live?
What is this mysterious mansion?
What do you mean she lives in a mansion?
Is it haunted?
You know what?
Does she live with Eddie Murphy?
No, she lives with Professor X. Is that what's his name? The X-Men mansion?
Oh, Charles Xavier?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you made me think I was wrong. I was not.
I mean, I guess Professor X, yeah.
yeah, his official
But
name.
you made me think of Chemical X from the Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's
No.
not the name of the guy,
No, I'm just
right?
thinking she lives in the X-Men mansion, and she's like, yeah, I have some really weird roommates. Nothing else much was said, and she got what little money was made from what would sell, and the rest went to the dump. This was all in late August 2024. Thanksgiving 2024 rolls around, and it's mine and my kids' first Thanksgiving with my husband's whole family. My mother-in-law wanted a picture of all of her grandchildren since they were all finally in one place at one time. My husband asked if we could get a second photo that included my 3 children as well as for him. She scoffed, and needless to say, no pictures were taken. Later that night, my husband received a text from my mother-in-law. He wouldn't tell me what it said. He just said that she was no longer invited to the wedding and that he would have no contact with her.
Whoa, that escalated.
I was baffled, but trusted my husband. If it was something he didn't even want to share with me, I knew it had to have been bad. As the days went by, I couldn't stop thinking about what that text could have said to make my husband completely uninvite her from our wedding and cut all contact.
I have an idea.
I have maybe an idea.
I bet you it had something to do with you and your kids.
I think so.
And he said, "Poof, goodbye."
Wow, she was honestly a ball of hatred and overstimulated nerves. It was still his mother. I finally sat my husband down and asked to read her message. He agreed to let me, but warned me prior to doing so that it was nasty and not to let any of it get to me. After reading the message, I set his phone down and looked at him. I told him I appreciated for sticking up for not only me, but my kids, and I fully backed him if he chose no contact with her. In her message, she told him that I would ruin his life and be the biggest mistake of his life. I was horrible, and he'd regret it. Something along the lines of my kids being horrible children. She hardly interacted with my kids ever, and that she'd never consider them her grandkids.
Well,
You
then
don't
I
have
guess
that problem.
they'll never consider you their grandma because you're not going to be around.
She didn't want them in the Thanksgiving photo, and that just ruined her Thanksgiving. She also
my
mentioned how
God.
my children and I ruined Easter for her too, because she shouldn't have to make things for my kids, since they aren't her grandkids and never would be. I can see maybe why she'd be upset with me over her stuff in my storage, but my kids? They're kids! They literally have never done anything to her. So after I read the text message my mother-in-law sent to my husband after Thanksgiving, my husband and I had a conversation about his relationship with his mother. Basically, her behavior was nothing new to him or his family. She has had issues with my sister-in-law's significant others and brother-in-law's significant others. It's not the first time one of her children have cut her off due to her behavior. Uncalled for statements, wild hatred for almost everything and everyone, unsolicited advice, and just pure lack of tact. However, it hit him different this time, he said, and was directed towards him specifically. I was the woman he was in love with and going to spend the rest of his life with. My children are his children, and he was absolutely not going to budge on this one this time. I agreed and supported him, obviously. Because she brought my children into it, she kind of ignited a little mama fire. So I did tell my husband that for me to forgive her and us be any part of her life, she would need to apologize in person to me. Apologizing is apparently something she doesn't do often, and damn sure not in person. Now at this point I start thinking, surely my children have never done anything to her, right? I've racked my brain. They truly hardly ever spoke to her. They're loud in the way, and just regular kids, but never have visibly or to my knowledge upset her or done anything intentionally or even unintentionally to upset her. I just don't get how a grown woman can be some type of way to kids. It truly breaks my heart for my kids too, because while my youngest, 8 male, doesn't understand anything, my 2 oldest, 13 male and 12 female, are old enough to understand what's going on. Even though it's never been discussed with them directly, they've overheard conversations. As for me, well, prior to the storage incident, I never really had much to say to my mother-in-law. She'd make some wild comments here or there about people, places, whatever rant she had that day, and I would just smile, not say anything validating or invalidating. I am a very passive person, and it takes a lot to get me upset. I also hold myself to a very high moral standard, as it's a huge part of my religion. So saying distasteful things or berating, belittling, ranting and fueling a clearly flaming bonfire just isn't my thing. Other than her drama tirades, though, we did have normal conversations, which I thought were always pleasant. I never got involved when she was arguing with a family member or disagreeing with my husband, nor did I ever offer an opinion one way or another. 1 month before our wedding, March 2025, I decided that we would not be the reason his mother didn't attend our wedding. While I was still upset with her, I'd had months to think, and even though I wasn't at a point to forgive her, it is still my husband's mother, and her not being there ultimately would be damaging to any possible future relationship with his mother. By the way, it would be damaging to us if you didn't listen to full episodes of stories just like this. Just go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or iHeartRadio and search up OK Storytime.
Until she owns up to her own bad behavior.
Yeah.
There's no reason to build a bridge.
I agree.
To restore this relationship, because then nothing has fundamentally changed.
We have had zero contact with her since Thanksgiving 2024. I told my husband to tell one of his sisters to invite her to the wedding. So he did. And to my knowledge, both his sisters and his brother, best man, did tell her she was invited. The big day comes and drum roll. No, mother-in-law in sight. She did not come. Well, I could tell it sort of upset my husband. It didn't ruin our day, and we are happily married. I stand firm. I want a formal apology in person. We have still had no contact with his mother. What did I marry into exactly? I think you're fine. I think you're A-okay because your husband clearly is on your side and took very immediate action against her, so I think you're okay.
My boyfriend lets his mom control his finances and thinks I'm the controversial one.
Dude, you gotta start ponying up.
I, female 25, know exactly what you're thinking from the title. Typical mama's boy who prioritizes his mom above everything else, and his poor girlfriend gets the scraps. But no, it's completely separate from that. By the way, this comes from user outrageous claim 32, and if you want to submit your own stories, go to the r/okstorytime subreddit. And we're here to give good advice goofily, but we don't have all the answers. We're only mortals. We only know what we would do in any given situation. So if you do something different, let us know in the comments. My boyfriend, male 26, avoids his mother like 99% of the time, as much as we can when we're renting a house with her and the rest of his family. She doesn't own the home. We aren't living in her home, but we all live together in a big house in a high cost of living area that gives us some great advantages that other 20-somethings don't usually get. Lots of space, an arcade room, multiple living rooms, and a room of our own for each of us. The problem is that he's extremely tied to his mother in every way other than socially. He pays his phone bill through her, his car payment and insurance through her, and I find it extremely annoying. If we need to find his insurance information, we have to ask her. It's like she dangles the information around, deciding if we are worthy of getting the information we need, and even then, she wants to submit the info herself instead of giving it to us. She holds on to his birth certificate and has to ask for copies, despite the fact we have our own files that I keep meticulous records in. This year for my birthday, he co-signed on my new car to get me a lower monthly payment, something I love, and he offered to do for me for my birthday. In order to finalize some documents, we had to attach my car insurance information and his history of car insurance. Instead of pulling up his car insurance, he had to text his mom and ask her for the information. I sat there with my documents in my hand, waiting for his mother to decide whether or not he could have the information he needed. And she ultimately decided not to give him his insurance information because it's my car and he shouldn't need to show anything. From my point of view, it shouldn't matter why he wants his own insurance information. He should be able to access it whenever he wants for whatever he wants. We've also been tinkering with the idea of upgrading both of our cell phones next year, possibly even merging our cell phone plans together. He had to ask his mommy how many more payments he had on his iPad, and it took her 4 weeks to give him the information he needed for us to plan further. When we're budgeting, I ask him something as simple as, how much is your car payment again? And he has to text his mom to ask how much he takes out of his bank account for his car payment every month. For me, I have all of that on my own. I have my own health insurance through work, my own car insurance, my own phone plans. I pay my own car loan every month. And it absolutely drives me insane that I can't get any information about finances without having to go through his mother. At 25 and 26, I think it's extremely normal to handle all of these things yourself. But am I wrong? I don't know if I'm annoyed because I'm extremely independent and have been since I was around 13, or if this is something that is actually just not normal and really annoying. There are no other signs of mama's boy. He never brings her around on our dates or ever really wants her around at all. He seems just as annoyed about this stuff as I do. But to me, if he were really annoyed, he'd put a stop to it, and he hasn't. Any advice would be appreciated. First advice would be like, have you talked to him about why he does this? Like,
Yeah,
why does he choose this?
I
He
think
probably
he
thinks
just
it's
doesn't
normal.
realize.
Yeah, he probably thinks it's. I'm on the same boat as Sophia. I think we're giving him too much of a hard time.
I think he's 26. That's not that
No,
old. I don't
when
think
you're
20.
wanting to co-sign on a insurance thing with
Yeah.
your partner, and your mommy says, "Nuh-uh, you can't do that at 26."
But I think
And you're like,
he
not
got-
immediately like, oh, you're just like, oh, well,
Yeah.
I guess I can't.
I think he got parentified into that. I think he just like his mom probably's like, that's okay. Like I can do this. I like to
I
see your funds. And I
yeah.
think he was like, I don't see anything wrong with that. I guess because my mom said it was okay.
Comment 1 is, I don't understand how it doesn't drive him insane. Dude needs to figure out where all this paperwork is and go effing get it. OP says, from what I've seen, she does this to both him and his brother, as well as their late father. I think they all just think it's normal, and I don't know how to convince them that it's not. Comment 2, now that he's 26, he needs to remove his mother's access to his bank account. He can write her a check for his share of the rent and utility costs. Get his own car insurance. At 25, the higher rate just because he's a male under 25 goes away. So the reason to stay with parents' insurance goes away. If she won't give him access to his birth certificate, just order a new copy online. Same with the Social Security cards. Present it as, we are talking about joining our finances, but having your mother keep the ability to see and access bills and bank accounts is a deal breaker. He can be financially entangled with his mom or with you, but not both. Once you secure his cooperation, since this seems to be more out of habit and convenience, you will probably need to help him develop a budget so that bills don't get missed or paid late, because he hasn't had to do this yet. Do not commingle your money until after he has shown that he has learned to do this independently. Comment 3, he is correct. That's how she is, but he's also allowing her to control his money. With minimal effort, he can easily get his birth certificate without his mother's consent, open his own bank account and block her access, get his own phone, insurance, and make his own car payment. If he doesn't do that, then you are going to want to get yourself out of that situation because he is a mama's boy, and he will not take control of his life or finances while she is alive. He can break away from her, he just isn't. Since you live with him and you have combined your income with his, you are also tied to her. This dynamic will never change, ever. You have to decide if you want this woman controlling your life, because right now she does, by your own admission. Thankfully, everything of yours you pay for yourself. And whatever you do, don't have kids with. Well, okay, we're going a little too far.
See that? I think that's too far.
This is
I
too
feel
far
like
right now.
He's 26.
It's
I don't
still
think he's a lost
fixable.
cause.
Is addressable.
Yeah.
Here's an update 8 days later. Today, he told me he will be getting a new phone, but that his mom handled it for him while he was at work. She called him during one of his busiest hours and asked him a bunch of rapid-fire questions, ones that he answered without paying much attention. His job is very physical, so he likely had an earpiece in and listened to her that way. It ended with him getting a new phone without having to trade his phone in. When I asked how that was possible, he said, apparently it was the only way to get my new phone without me having to open my own separate phone plan.
No, you are right there. You guys literally want to
That's what
have
I'm
your own
saying,
phone
dude.
plan together.
This guy's trying to hang out in Club Baby.
You have to have
He's
a
26.
very serious conversation with your boyfriend now.
I thought this was perfect. What a great way to bring up this tough conversation organically. I said, what's wrong with opening your own phone plan? And he just shrugged. So I brought the whole thing up. I can't say exactly what I said because it was word vomit on my part. But eventually, as I was saying all of this, he said, okay, I don't want to talk about this anymore.
No.
So I told him we can't just ignore this. And he said it wasn't a big deal. After a bit of silence, he said, I didn't know that talking to you would be so controversial. I tried to stay on track, looking at this as a whole. He said that either way, he'd been tied to his mom's account by having to pay off his iPhone through her. That no matter what, it would have been a while before he was detached, so what's one more thing? I asked, okay, but when does that end? Don't you think it's weird that you can't even tell me how much your bills are? That everything is through her? Everything a normal couple has tied together 4 years in, you have with your mom. I never thought that when you told me at 21 that everything was tied to your mom, that you'd still be the same way at 26. He asked what I wanted him to do, and that no matter what he did, he'd still be ultimately financially tied to his mom until his car is paid off, so it doesn't matter. And that's when I kind of snapped. I said, and don't you think it's weird she keeps calling you while you're at work and then you end up locked in long-term contracts with her? Is she doing this on purpose? And he said, I mean, probably, yeah. So I asked him why he doesn't see a problem with it. And he said he's just nonchalant about it. At this point, it feels like he is truly not seeing the problem. I feel incredibly frustrated and angry that he just lets her do this. It's like he likes it, which makes no sense to me. By the way, it makes perfect sense that you can listen to full episodes with stories just like this on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search OK Storytime, and you can listen to the full archive. I just don't get it. I just do not understand how a grown man, which I guess he's not
quite,
because he's still a baby. He wants to be
Still
baby boy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if this is like breaking up territory, but like it's definitely like
Big old conversation.
reassessing how much you want to be like. It might be like pulling back territory
Well, I think
or like moving out. I know you said that like living here affords you guys a lot of, you know, stuff, but it's like being like, I don't want to be in this environment because it feels like I'm living with just a child.
I think it's having a big conversation and saying, if you don't see a change, I don't know how we can start a life together if you can't separate your life with your mother.
Truly. If you can't see that, I don't know, if you can't be responsible for your own stuff, how are we going to have a life together where you have to be responsible for your own things?
Don't know.
It's just the.
What's going to happen when your mom's gone?
Yeah, like how long do you want to do this? Forever?
How do you not mind not taking personal responsibility for things like this? The car, I get, but I know that I had an active loan with my mom that I got transferred into my own account a few years ago, so I know he can get his phone separated from her at least. In hard times, she threatens to drop his name from the title to raise his insurance rates. But now he's 26, so if we asked her to drop her name, his insurance rates wouldn't go up, and she wouldn't have anything to threaten him over. Then she'd have nothing over him anymore, but he doesn't seem to care, and I'm starting to think that it's because he doesn't want to have to worry about paying anything on his own. It feels like a massive red flag. At 25 and 26, I'm not sure it's a red flag I'm willing to ignore.
Yeah.
And that's the end of that story.
I think, if the conversations don't work, then you got to reassess.